Welcome back to another episode of Any Last Words. I'm your host, Joe, and today we're going to be talking about Elmer J. McCurdy, also known as the Funhouse Mummy. Elmer J. McCurdy was born in 1880 in Maine and grew up becoming an alcoholic. In 1907, he joined the military where he learned to use machine guns and play with explosives. In 1910, he returned home, becoming an alcoholic again. In 1911, with not much money and not much to do, he decided he wanted to become a safe-cracking train robber, using explosives to crack these safes, and at one time actually blowing up the safe and the contents in it. Dumbass. He then decided that he wanted to rob a train that he found out contained over $400,000, which in 1911 was, I can't even imagine how much that would be now. That'd probably be like billions of dollars at this point. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. On the day of the robbery, him and his gang actually ended up robbing the wrong train. Oops. Didn't figure out the timing on that one, did you? He actually robbed the train that came in before the train that had the $400,000 on it, and only ended up getting about $46, a couple of jugs of whiskey, a gun, and a really nice watch. Not too happy with the failed robbery attempt, he took the whiskey that he actually got from the train and got drunk in a hay barn, doing what he actually does best, which is just getting drunk. While he was cooped up in this barn drinking his ass off, a local paper actually was writing about it and named him as one of the suspects with a $2,000 reward, calling the robbery one of the smallest robberies in history. Ugh, that's a shot in the dick right there, I'm sure. A few days later, dogs led a posse to the hay barn where McCurdy was passed out at. Now, McCurdy was not about to be captured and taken off, so a shootout occurred and it lasted about an hour. As soon as the shots from the barn stopped, someone went inside and found that McCurdy had been shot in the chest by a single bullet. McCurdy was then taken to an Oklahoma funeral home where he was oversaturated with arsenic, which is something they used at the time for embalming bodies. No one ever came and claimed McCurdy's body. He'd sat there for a really long time, and the mortician actually refused to bury him because he hadn't been paid. He's like, I'm not doing any more work. I've already done enough. So then the mortician decided to keep him on display because when he oversaturated his body with the arsenic, it preserved him so well, and he was so happy with it. He's like, I'm going to put him on display and show everybody what a great job I did. And that's where he stayed for about 5 years. In that 5 years, while he was on display, people actually came and paid 5 cents to see the mummy man up close and personal. The mortician's daughters actually at times put him on roller skates and would roll him around to scare people. Morbid little shits. A handful of carnivals and sideshows had shown up to the mortuary to offer to buy McCurdy's body from the mortician. And for some reason, he was just like, no, I'm not going to sell him. I'm just not going to sell him. Then one day, a man claiming to be McCurdy's brother showed up from California, saying that his mother was dying and her last wishes were to have McCurdy brought back home and buried with her. And the mortician was a little skeptical about it. He's like, I don't know about this. I don't believe you. So somehow or another, this guy was able to go to a lawyer and an office downtown and get a declaration signed off stating that he was in fact McCurdy's brother. So the next day, he took McCurdy's body and put him on a train and took him to California, which didn't happen. Come to find out, it was not McCurdy's brother. He was actually the owner of the Great Patterson Sideshow in Arkansas, where he put McCurdy's body on display as his new exhibit. calling him the Oklahoma Outlaw. Now, in 1922, Patterson had taken out a loan for $500 and used McCurdy's body as collateral. He defaulted on this loan and then became the property of Louis Sonny. Louis Sonny was the owner of a traveling museum of crime, basically. He had multiple wax figures of like Jesse James and other outlaws throughout history. But now he has a real life body that he gets to put on display. While McCurdy was on display, they ended up telling a new story, a new backstory to McCurdy's life, saying that McCurdy was a drug dealer and a drug user that was caught by police. And rather than being taken in by the police, he drank an ungodly amount of arsenic, which is what killed him and preserved his body so well to be mummified like that. In 1933, McCurdy's body was actually rented out to the director of the movie Narcotic. And in 1964 was lent to director David Friedman for his movie She-Freak. In 1968, McCurdy's body was sold to the owner of the Hollywood Wax Museum. But the owner thought that McCurdy's body was too gruesome and not enough lifelike to put on display. Then McCurdy's body was sold off as a lightly damaged mannequin to the owners of the amusement park Laugh in the Dark at the Pike in Long Beach, California, where he had a noose put around his neck and he was painted neon red and set back in the funhouse. He sat there until 1976, until the show The $6 Million Man decided to shoot an episode at the Pike and inside the Laugh in the Dark funhouse. A crew member decided to find out whether or not this weird-looking mannequin had people parts. You know what I'm talking about, right? And when he moved his hand from in front of his area, his arm broke off. The crew member described it as dried out beef jerky on a bone. And yes, he did have people parts, which is what made it really weird because mannequins don't have people parts. They kind of look like a Barbie doll. Nothing there. So then the crew member called another crew member over to look at this and said, does this look like a bone to you? Like, I'm freaked the fuck out, dude. Everybody started noticing that, yes, this looks like a real bone. So then the police were called in. The police took the arm down to the coroner's office, where the coroner confirmed that, yes, this is people parts. So then the police came back, took the body back down to the coroner's office, where the coroner discovered that he had the Y incision on his chest and down his abdomen, where the original autopsy had happened, and a single bullet hole in his chest. And a ticket to the Museum of Crime was stuffed in his mouth with a penny from 1924. Why? I don't even know what to say about that. Like, it seems fucked up. Like, to stuff a ticket and a coin in a dead person. I mean, all of this is messed up to do to a dead body. But at one point after time, they stopped saying it was a real person and it was just a mannequin and a dummy and kind of got forgotten about in that way. But still, they knew what they had at the time. They knew what they had. That's just disrespectful. I don't care who you are. That's disrespectful. Anyway. So the police took the ticket from the traveling crime circus, whatever you want to call it. They backtracked the information and found out that he was Elmer McCurdy and was like, holy shit, we know who this person is. This is a real person. Holy shit. 1977, Elmer McCurdy was laid to rest in Oklahoma 66 years after he originally died. Oh. Now, when he was placed in the ground, they put 2 feet of concrete over his coffin before they laid the dirt because they wanted to make sure that no one would ever dig him up ever again. He can stay where he's at. Woo. Ah. That's crazy. Now, you can go and actually find the movie She-Freak still. I don't know where he's at in the movie. I don't know if the episode of $6 Billion Man, if that one ever finished. It was called Carnival of Spies. I don't know if that was, I guess I should have looked that up before all this, huh? It doesn't really matter. You guys will look on your own if you're that interested in this one. I don't know. But that is kind of creepy. It is very weird that this guy who wanted to be a famous outlaw had one of the worst robberies in history, bad ideas, ended up dead, and became more famous in his afterlife than his living life. That sucks because you couldn't even enjoy it. Can't even enjoy all the bitches and coke. Fuck. I don't know what they did back then. He probably would have just drank himself to death. Probably. Who knows? But that is the life, crime, and afterlife of Elmer J. McCurdy. If you guys like this video, please make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and slash the notification bell so that you never miss another episode of Any Last Words. Thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Check me out on Patreon, Instagram, and Facebook as well under Any Last Words. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have nightmares about me. Mwah.